So today we are starting Unit 7, and Lesson 7-1 is on the Pythagorean Theorem and the triangle angle sum theorem. For your essential question today, I want you to explain the concepts that were talked about in today's lesson. So first for our vocab, our first vocabulary term is the word hypotenuse. And a hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle. And that is always going to be the side opposite the right angle. So in a right triangle, you're going to have one angle marked as 90 degrees, or with this symbol here, indicating that it's a right angle, meaning it's 90 degrees. And so the side across from that angle is always going to be the longest side, which is going to be the hypotenuse of the right triangle. The other two sides will be referred to as the legs of the right triangle. The Pythagorean theorem states that the sum of the squares of the legs of a triangle, a right triangle that is, are equal to the square of the hypotenuse of the triangle. So whatever the measure of the two legs are, you'll take their measure and square it. So we're going to call this leg A and this leg B, and then we're going to refer to the hypotenuse as C. So the sum means we're adding of the squares of the legs. So that's going to be A squared plus B squared. Sum is addition, and A and B are the legs, and we square them, are equal to the square of the hypotenuse of the triangle. So A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared, but you must keep in mind that it's the sum of the legs that are always equal to the hypotenuse. The sum of the square of the legs are equal to the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse will be by itself when you're using the Pythagorean theorem. So always make sure that's where you're substituting the hypotenuse. We have the triangle angle sum theorem, which we mentioned briefly in a previous lesson. The triangle angle sum theorem states that the sum of the interior angles of a triangle equal 180 degrees. So for any triangle, if I have angle C, D, and E, the measure of angle C plus the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle E will always add up to 180 degrees. Lastly, I want you guys to understand the idea that the largest side of a triangle will always be opposite or across from the largest angle of a triangle. So going back to the Pythagorean theorem, the right angle will always be the largest angle of the triangle. Therefore, the hypotenuse is always the largest side of the triangle. But this is the case with any triangle, not just right triangles. So the largest side is always opposite the largest angle. And conversely, the smallest side is always opposite the smallest angle, which means the middle-sized angle will always be opposite the middle-sized side. For GP1, we are using the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing sides of the triangle, and we need to write our answer in simplest radical form. So we're going to go back to simplifying radicals in this lesson. So the first thing I want to do is identify the sides, which one's the hypotenuse, which ones are the legs. So for this one, remember, the hypotenuse is always opposite or across from the right angle. So x in this case is going to be our hypotenuse, and when we use the Pythagorean theorem, we're going to substitute that x value in for c, which means that 14 and 7 represent the legs of our right triangle. Now, when we're using the Pythagorean theorem, it does not matter which leg you plug in for A and which leg you plug in for B. So we're going to take these values and substitute them into the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So a is 14, so we will have 14 squared plus b, which is 7, so we will have 7 squared, is equal to the hypotenuse, which is x squared. So we're solving for that missing side. We're looking for that value of x, so we need to simplify this here. 14 squared is 14 times 14, that's 196. 7 squared is 7 times 7, that's 49. That is equal to x squared. From here, we want to go ahead and combine our like terms. So that's going to give us 245 is equal to x squared. Lastly, we need to get x by itself, so we need to get rid of this square. The inverse of squaring is square rooting, so we will now take the square root of both sides. And we will get the square root of 245 is equal to x. Now we need to make sure that our answer is written in simplest radical form, so we want to go ahead and cake 245 if possible. So this is going to be divisible by 5, and that gives us 49, which is divisible by 7 and 7 and 7 and 1. So we have a pair of 7s and a leftover 5, and x is equal to 7 radical 5. Now, something to keep in mind here is that we've seen with solving quadratics that anytime we square root, when we're solving, we're going to include a plus or minus in front of our answer. However, because this represents measure of an object, we don't have negative measurements. So anytime we're looking for the missing side, it's just going to be a positive value. All right, for B, same thing. Looking for the missing side of a triangle, we want to identify the hypotenuse and legs. Here's our right angle. The side opposite or across from the right angle is our hypotenuse, so that will be C. A and B, doesn't matter which one's which. So we have 8 squared plus x squared is equal to 16 squared. 8 squared is 64 plus x squared is equal to 256. We will then subtract 64 on both sides to work towards getting x by itself. When we do that, we get x squared is equal to 192. Again, to get x by itself, we will square root both sides, giving us x is equal to the square root of 192. Take that value, see if we can cake it. So 192 divided by 2 is 96. Divided by 2 is 48. Divided by 2 is 24. Divided by 2 is 12. Divided by 2 is 6. Divided by 2 is 3. And divided by 3 is 1. So we have 3 pairs of 2's and a leftover 3. So this will be 2 times 2, which is 4, and 4 times 2, which is 8, with a leftover 3. So x is equal to 8 radical 3. And in this case, my units are feet. I left the units off that last slide. So for this one, for part A, it should have been inches. So please add your units to that last GP. All right, one more for the Pythagorean theorem. Still looking for the missing side, identify the hypotenuse opposite the right angle. So we have rad 10 as our hypotenuse in this case. which means that x and 2 are the legs. So we will have x squared plus 2 squared is equal to the square root of 10 squared. So simplify this, x squared plus 4. Now remember, squaring and square rooting are the inverses of each other, therefore they undo each other. So if we square a square root, these are going to undo each other, leaving us with simply 10. Subtract 4 on both sides, giving us x squared is equal to 6. From there, we will square root both sides. Again, squares and square roots undo each other. That leaves us with x is equal to the square root of 6. If we were to try to simplify 6, we would have 2 and 3 and 3 and 1. We have no pairs here because it's already simplified. So our answer is the square root of 6 centimeters. That is the Pythagorean theorem. All right, here we have the triangle angle sum theorem. We need to find the measure of the indicated angle. So we're looking for the question mark here, and label the sides of the triangle, small, medium, and large. So we're going to go ahead and remember the triangle angle sum theorem tells us that the sum of the interior angles add up to 180 degrees. Now you need to make sure that you are setting up an equation whenever you're looking for that missing angle. So we're going to write this as 20 plus 135 plus question mark is equal to 180 degrees. 20 plus 135 is going to be 155 plus question mark is equal to 180. Then we subtract 155 on both sides, giving us a missing angle of 25 degrees. So then from there, we want to label the sides, small, medium, and large. Remember, the small side is always opposite the small angle, and the large side is opposite the large angle. So here is our largest angle at 135 degrees, and we can clearly see that this side here is the largest. We don't want to depend on the way a picture is drawn, though. We always need to depend on the angles, so be really careful with that. The smallest side is opposite the smallest angle. Well, 20 degrees is our smallest angle. So this side here is opposite the 20-degree angle. So that's going to be our smallest side, leaving us with 25 is our medium size angle. So the side opposite 25 degrees is going to be our medium side. Same thing, find the measure of the indicated angle. So we're looking for question mark, and then label the sides. So we have 67 plus 71 plus question mark is equal to 180 degrees. 67 plus 71 gives us 138. We will subtract 138 on both sides, giving us a missing angle of 42 degrees. And if we label for small, medium, and large, 42 is our smallest angle. Therefore, it is opposite the smallest side. 71 is our largest angle. That will be opposite the largest side. which leaves us with 67 as the medium size angle. So the side opposite 67 is the medium side. And that is triangle angle sum and labeling sides small, medium, and large of a triangle.